Good evening and welcome to the Athens Municipal Arts Commission meeting on Wednesday, June 9th, 2021. Before we call the meeting to order, I wanted to welcome our new commissioner, Holly Attell. And if she wants to pop on and say a couple of things about her to introduce herself.
Thanks, Chelsea. Hi, I'm Holly Attell. I'm the exhibitions director at the Dairy Barn Arts Center. And I'm very happy to be here to be a part of the AMAC crew.
Thanks, Holly. We look forward to your contributions and getting to know you a little bit better. So I'm going to officially call this meeting to order. Let's go ahead and start with some legislative updates. Jeff, it looks like you're the only one here. I know Andrew's out of town.
Oh, you know more about Andrew than I do then. I really don't have anything concerning legislative updates. There's nothing before any of the city council committees or before council itself to be considered as legislation. So unless the mayor's got something up his sleeve, you never know about him. You know, he's always got secret plans. So we'll have to ask him directly, but I don't know of anything.
Okay. Thank you. And I haven't heard anything from the mayor, but I was a terrible chair and reached out to him way too late this week because I finally moved back into my office. So I've been running around a lot today and this whole entire week. So we will table that for next time and hopefully get some more updates next time. So moving on to minutes from May 12th. Josh?
I didn't receive any corrections or additions, but if anyone has any, please bring them up now.
I did not see any myself. Okay. I always hear you're supposed to wait like 12 seconds to see, make sure people get mute or unmuted and all that fun stuff. But doesn't look like anybody has anything. So I have a motion to accept the minutes from May 12th?
So moved.
Jeff, thank you. Anybody second?
A second.
Scott, thank you very much. Moving on to Arts West and any Arts of Aprd update. I did get a couple of updates from Emily Beveridge, who is the program specialist at Arts West. I'll just go through these. So the Circle show will be on display through July 4th at the Athens Community Center Gallery. I was able to see that at Arts West the day that they the night that they took it down, and it is very fun. I would highly recommend going and checking it out. The Wonderland Gardens Gallery show will be displayed at Arts West Gallery through July 4th. Crafternoon classes will be offered Mondays and Wednesdays at the Community Center through August. Afternoon arts classes will be offered at Arts West for students K through 5th grade, Monday through Fridays, and will feature movement, music, visual arts, ceramics, and puppet theater instruction. And then Arts West intern Alexis Parsons is working with program specialist Emily Beveridge to develop an Art Start program for movement, music, visual arts, and puppet theater instruction for students aged 3 to 5. Arts West intern Paula Atfield is working with program specialist Emily Beveridge to develop a handmade housewarming event for Saturday, August 21st at Armory Park, which is move-in weekend. The event will feature art vendors, Passionworks Studio puppet sale, and a community banner making project to install at the Armory Park. And then finally, the Athens City School District will be donating a kiln previously used at the Morrison Gordon Elementary to Arts West. So the kiln will be used to support classes and events. Yes, Jeff.
Speaking of Art West, you jogged my memory. You probably already know the City Council has approved about $100,000 for the repairs on Arts West, that resulted from the car collision. They also stipulated that since it's a dire emergency, that we suspended the usual bidding process, which would take about 3 months if we went that route, so that a local contractor can get on the job immediately and begin making that section safe. That's the main thing, is it's in danger of collapse. So it definitely needs to be repaired and has to be repaired now. So council and the administration has acted on it.
Great. I know Andrew gave a little bit of brief update last week to that effect, but I don't recall some of that information. So thank you.
Yeah.
It's really good to hear. Any questions about Arts West before we move on? Nope. Awesome. So first, ongoing public projects. Beth could not be here today, but I do have a update for everybody. So the teachers have adhered the painted mural cloths to each of the 8 panels, and they are being stored in the community center. They are hoping to be able to schedule the installation soon. Also, WOUB came out on Monday to interview and film 2 teachers as they were working, and then Beth was interviewed via Zoom yesterday. It's supposed to be aired on Newswatch tonight and then on their YouTube channel. So if that's something that you are interested in watching, I will probably tune in later on for YouTube. If I can ever find the link, I'll make sure and send it out to everybody. Okay, next ongoing public project is Key to the City. Kelly.
Okay, sorry. I have no updates. I'm still waiting to hear back from the mayor as to whether or not they approved the price that the price list of work and supplies needed and materials from Brian. So nothing really to report yet.
Thanks, Kelly. Hopefully the summertime is a little bit calmer so people can hopefully get some more updates on that, get that moving.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. So the next is Art Outside the Box. I didn't really want to talk a whole lot about that today because we do have some time before the next round, which I was looking at the last round, the 2019, but the call was ending sometime in January of 2020. And so we have a little bit of time to flush out a timeline and update everything. However, I did have a community member reach out sometime in May, and he had an idea for the next round. He was thinking that it would be a good community project to include like a civics lesson on the wraps. And so when I say civics lesson, I mean like the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the national anthem lyrics, the Statue of Liberty, what's posted on the Statue of Liberty, things like that. So I wanted to put that out there for everybody to think about, because we can definitely add that to the RFP if it's something that we are interested in doing. I would definitely say that it needs to be some sort of artistic. It doesn't, I just don't want block letters or something like that. But that was a suggestion from a community member for the next round of the Athens Art Outside the Box.
I wonder if maybe it could be something that's more Athens centric. Maybe, something about the history of Athens or the history of Appalachia, or, something that's a little bit more unique to our area rather, federally, yes, that would be neat, but I feel like it would be kind of fun to have something that has more to do with our town and our community specifically.
I like that idea as well. Anybody have any other thoughts? Initial thoughts on that?
I'm with Kelly on the idea that if we were going to go a civics route, that it would be Athens centric. Personally, I think that's one of the neat things about the wrap is that we're showcasing Athens artists. Not that the other idea isn't interesting and fun. I think I align more with her on that one for sure.
And it might be an interesting collaboration with the Southeast Ohio History Center to see if they would have any suggestions on what would be appropriate, what would fit on any, would we want a whole message making sure we sent a whole message, or would it be just a part of something like the Northwest Ordinance or something like that? Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, the Northwest Ordinance.
It might be neat too to like include something that's more, like I just joined the group on Facebook that's restoring the Mount Zion Church. Something like that would be kind of interesting as well, or something about historic figures of the area, or people who've been.
Well, we had a very flourishing canal system once upon a time. This was really a big hub of transportation and commerce.
Right.
Goods flowing from the north down to the Ohio River. They came right through the old river channel, and then they built the canals and the locks. That was a huge project, for the 1830s and 40s. It'd be almost like building new highways today. So, in terms of labor and costs, I think that was very important for the state and for Athens. So, and that's all being lost now. I mean, the average person in Athens doesn't have any idea about the canals. All they know is, there's a ditch and it's a river, and that's it. So it might be good to just remind people again. Just a thought.
I guess we could make sure that the RFP has, something to that, that we speak to that specifically, and just say, this round of entries, we would like to see people, maybe do a little research on, what they consider to be unique about Athens, or southeastern Ohio, or whatever, to encompass that somehow, and then we would get people to enter. I think it'd be wrong of us to limit it only to civics based entries, but to encourage people.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting also to have some type of recognition of some of our more well-known artists that have come, from way back. It's another thing that I think we could get help from probably Tom O'Grady at the Southeast Ohio History Center, maybe Bill Kimmock at Ohio University Archives. I've talked with Tom about working with him to do a playing card set. That's essentially all of these things you guys are just saying. Like, there's a set about buildings, there's a set about canals, and talks about all the different canals and stuff like that. This is a totally different project, but it reminded me of it because he wants to kind of make there be something that people can see and hold and look at that has these little, fun facts, which is probably not a great way to say that, but it keeps it into the imagination of, the public.
Right.
Yeah.
We just don't want to make it too, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just putting this out there. Are we wanting to find people to create these for us, or are we still going to have an RFP that local artists enter, and we encourage them with certain themes?
I would say yes. Yeah, I think it still should be local artists. And I think we should encourage, as you say, local themes, whether it be history or the founding of Athens. I love the idea of, working with Mount Zion and having an artist do something around that history. The other thing that I want to make sure that we do not forget is that if this is a box that's not just beautiful visually, but it has some information to read, that we put it at a location where people are able to park and walk to. Yeah. There are a couple of boxes out there that are close to highways that I would like to avoid purely because that's just not a safe location. We need to also think about the safety of people looking and, enjoying the information posted. Yeah. So just something to also make sure that we include, as the process is going.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So Lee, since you seem to have a relationship with Tom O'Grady, would you like to reach out to him and just kind of put the bug in his ear and say, we're thinking about doing something like this, and see what ideas he has and or what type of collaboration we can do?
Sure. I'd be happy to reach out to him and then report back at the next meeting. Just so that I know, when the RFPs are considered, is there a committee that considers those?
Yes.
Okay. And then the language that gets added to it, does that have to go?
What we do is the committee creates the RFP, and then we find local artists to be the judges to choose the final pieces.
I see.
I was on the last committee. That's the only reason I'm saying that.
Okay. Yeah. So the language of the RFP is looked over by a few people before it gets sent out, and so that we all know. We approve it as an organization. AMAC cool.
does. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to Tom.
Great. Thank you. Did anybody have anything additional before we move on? Anybody who didn't get a chance to speak?
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe the selections could prioritize historical stories that aren't typically known or told by the general public. Like the canal, I've never heard of, but maybe that's something that many people know about. So anyway, I'm sure there's a lot of stories that have been untold for a while.
Johnny Appleseed, don't forget.
You guys may also find some inspiration with the Portsmouth flood wall. There's some great videos, and that could also, be included in an RFP to get people thinking about possibilities. I know Josh took a APP group down there a few years ago. I took a group down there recently, and to kind of build some reference points for the public art project at the parking garage. So.
Great. Thanks, Nate. That's a great suggestion. I would also love to make sure that we encourage the global majority to either be part of the creation or be an artist. I think it would be a great, just a great idea to have some more of the global majority to talk about Mount Zion, and also Templeton, Blackburn, the first graduates of Ohio University, first Black graduates of Ohio University, and making sure that they have representation as well. So we also need to keep that in mind, especially when it comes to future jurors. We want to make sure that we have some global majority representation on the committee as well. Okay, any last things? This is a great conversation. I hate to move on, but we've got some other great conversations that we need to cover. Nope? Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on. The Athens Photo Project Youth Exhibit, Josh and Nate.
Yes. So I'm teaching some youth photo classes this summer with the Athens Photo Project, and I'll be working with different youth from different organizations. We're taking some youth as referrals from Hopewell, some at Bassett House, which is a residential recovery facility here in Athens County, and some from Sojourners. So it's a diverse group of youth. And we would like to, at the end of the summer, kind of take the best and most meaningful work that these youth have made and do an exhibit of it in the community. And what we're thinking is some kind of outdoor exhibit, perhaps along the bike path. We've looked at the organization Photoville, and what they do is they print up images large on vinyl banners and install them along fence lines on bike paths and walkways, areas that otherwise would mostly look fairly urban. And I have some samples to share if you guys want to take a look. Can I share my screen?
Please do.
Okay. So let me share here. Okay. Can you all see this image here?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So I'll sit down with vinyl banner, show you some that I think are in line with what we're thinking, but we're open to AMAC's feedback and ideas, and I'm sure Nate has some other things he can add that'll help you kind of understand where we're at with this. These were done by Wendy Ewald. They're large vinyl banners installed indoors, hanging from the ceiling. They can be installed outdoors. They're UV protected for years. They're protected against weather. They're easy to install because we'll have metal grommets installed. We can just zip tie them to a fence, or if we decide to do it to some other type of structure, we can do that too. So you can see the impact these have, the size. And you know, these are going to be photographs made by the youth, which feature their voices, their experiences, their vision, their viewpoints and perspectives. So I think it could be really impactful. Some of these have been done all over the world, in places you wouldn't think of an art exhibit occurring. And these are a lot of portraits, but the work that our kids will make, it's going to vary. There might be some portraits, but there are going to be tons of other kinds of images as well. Okay, and let me get to the bike path imagery. So these are some that Photoville has done along bike paths in New Orleans, New York, places like that. You can see it grab some attention. The area that we are thinking of is the area of the bike path between Hopewell and the ABH, the hospital, and the Habitat for Humanity house. There's a big, it's off of Union Street there. There's a big kind of open grassy area. It just feels like it could use something colorful, something to make people stop. And it's also near APP's building and near healthcare services, so it feels appropriate in that way as well. And we don't have to make one long one. We could do separate photographs. We'll include statements with the artists, with each artist's work. And this could be a metal fence. It could be a wood fence. It could be some other type of structure. I'll show you in a minute. It could be like a freestanding structure. We could build it out of PVC or wood or metal. Yeah, we're open to ideas, but we think that the space is good and appropriate. And, as the pandemic's ending and, it's summer, it just feels right to be outside. Maybe we can think of another area though. So we just kind of want to present what we're thinking and hear what you all have to say.
Josh, would they all have to live in one place, or could there be space for some of them to appear down where you had said between Hopewell, like sort of in that big yard or across from Larry's, it's just like that, what you're talking about. Okay. And then maybe some of them would be formatted to work somehow. Maybe this won't work across the Court Street banner and take up a banner space at the same time that the space is being also, there's a display on the bike path. I just think that, like you said, in the summer, those are high traffic areas for all of our communities, but especially that banner over Court Street really gets people to notice sort of like the nature of the work and celebrates the work itself. But I don't know how many you'd want to try to get up there that people could actually see. Like maybe 3 would work, maybe 5. I mean, that's, I'm sure you guys would figure that out. But I always really love seeing what's on the banner on Court Street because I don't know, it's sort of every time you see something up there, it informs the brand of the entire community, whether it's for a service, thing like the Kiwanis, or if it's an art thing. It's just a really nice reminder about what our community is about. And of course, our community is about the arts, so as well. So anyway.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I like that.
I was just thinking that down at the west side ballpark area where our water well field begins, you have this big blue pump towers. You could hang things off of that and just sort of march your way down the bicycle path. And it's a cylinder, so that means it has several sides, not just a view from the bicycle path, but also on the other side of it too, and the field near the community garden area. So there's a lot of things that the city has that you could, given the proper permission, of course, put art on. That way, I think it would save you a lot of money in fencing. What you're talking about, just to put the art on, plus the posts and so on, the installation of a fence is expensive. Free is better.
Yeah, and with the duration of the exhibit, we were thinking about a month. It would be kind of the minimum, but having it be more of a short-term installation. So maybe it's a little bit more than a month, but month or 2. So if we went the route of fencing, it probably would only be feasible if there was a the city or Bedrock Rental or someone that had material available that we could kind of purpose for this temporarily and then return. But further down on the bike path, that's a great idea too. I was just out there last night with my oldest son, and he was asking what those blue cylinders were, and I had no idea. So
that's where all your drinking water's coming.
I probably should know. Yeah. But that's very cool.
3 million gallons a day.
I have this idea that I don't know. I've kind of been envisioning it for a few years now. One of the alleys uptown that goes from Court Street over to Congress.
Uh-huh.
Because it's this great alley. Those alleys are so wonderful, and those hanging vinyl panels in those first images. I just think that would be so great to have them hanging, and you could walk up the alley and look at those images. I think that would be really neat. If the city would allow that alley to be closed off for for a period, except of course for emergency purposes, but have it as like a walking gallery down one of those, really neat.
You could only close off one end. There's apartments back there. That's where people park their cars to go to their apartments. So,
well, not all of them have apartment. I know one of them is just like access to restaurants.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of doesn't have apartments. I think it's the one that goes along the side of, I guess what was Mountain Laurel, maybe that alley along there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I don't know. Maybe not have it closed off. Just have it full of art, though.
Right. Yeah. Just let them.
In kind of a neat, visually, it would be really cool and something that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. When we were, I don't know if any of you remember, when we were brainstorming for the parking garage project, that was one of the other locations we were thinking about was the alleyways, because they're just so there's so much space and it's so grand, the tall buildings and the things you get. So maybe we do something like that and we do some lights and maybe we close it just for, a 1 or 2 hour period for like an opening exhibition reception and then just leave it up for a month. Mm-hmm. And maybe we advertise it on the banners across Court Street so people know that it's there.
It might be less expensive too, because you're just running cable.
No, you could put arrows on the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
So I do love all of this, and I love the idea of the alleys. I would just recommend that if we do identify certain alleys, that we ask the local businesses who access those to make sure that they don't. I mean, I don't think anybody, has big rigs going in there, but the height issue, we want to make sure that there aren't any trucks that are too tall that are going to run into them. And then regarding the banner across Court Street, I know that the city, they actually, my brain is gone.
We install it.
Yeah, you guys install it, but you also, charge money for it. But I'm sure as a city project, it would be fine. But I believe it is by week, and they already have the schedule. I don't know if it's already out, and I'm not sure what the timeline looks like. But
they send it out at the end of last year and have people sign up in January, starting January 1st. So a lot of weeks have already been taken.
That's right. Yeah.
We will be lucky and find that, the week we want is available. So,
Josh, when is the date of of when you want to have it up? What's the month that you want to have it up?
We'd like to have it on August 13th.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. So it is a short timeline. But.
Yeah. I do work for the Athens International Film and Video Festival, and I work with Patty every year to make sure that banner goes up the week of the festival. So I'd be happy to do all the paperwork to submit it to see if that week, any of the weeks that you want it to be up. Maybe it doesn't have to be right at you can always have an opening after it's up if you want. It just depends on what the weeks are, but they do get pretty packed, especially since nobody advertised anything in 2020 because there wasn't anything happening. Everybody was chomping at the bit to make sure they got the week they wanted on. I turned in the application on January 1st to Patty, so for the film festival. So I could be happy to reach out to her and work and see what the dates available are and get back to you if that's helpful.
Yeah, that'd be very helpful. And we're talking about the banner that's on Court in Washington.
Correct.
Yeah. Does any of you know about the vertical banners that hang on the light post? Is that an option as well? I've seen that in a lot of big cities.
Yeah, they own those. I think they own some, and I think OU owns some, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's a different application that comes with when you apply. You can apply for either or.
I see. Cool.
Okay. So it sounds like everyone's feeling like that might be kind of a prominent and interesting and important place to do this kind of exhibit. Were there any other thoughts on, if we were to do some kind of fencing installation, is there a fence somewhere we could use that could be prominent, or can we not think of any?
So I was thinking about the bike path. There is the fencing that goes around the wastewater treatment plant, which does already have murals on it. But, I was thinking about when I go for a walk, I do not go all the way down to Hopewell because I'm on the I come in near the Red Cross and that spur. That's usually where I walk from. And I never have the time to go all the way down to Hopewell walking. And so I was thinking that if you do end up doing the bike path, I kind of like the idea of having the PVC pipe ones and spreading them not sporadically, but strategically placed in kind of the different areas, in between Hopewell And then, down further down near the community gardens, and then further down toward the library or something like that. That could be another option. And then it would not be as free as doing an alleyway, but if you have if you get the initial PVC pipe, if this is something that you're planning on continuing, if it goes well, in the next couple of years, you have that infrastructure that you can do every year. So,
and the nice thing about that is you have the ability to have more people in the community see it, especially if it's someplace where people can, walk to, like the library. They just walk right out there and look at the art if they aren't the types that would normally ride their bikes back and forth or whatever. That would be really neat.
Yeah, with a freestanding option like that, Josh, would you mind pulling up the image of, it was like, there was one that looked like there was 4 panels that were kind of connected in together. Because I do think something like that could be easy enough to build and, use different materials, even if we kind of build it from the inside and have images kind of maybe more like this one, where it's, the materials kind of disappear more or less into the background. The images really are prominent. That aluminum one, of course, is, a little bit fancier, but we were over at the Zinner House on Friday. We had an event and borrowed some display grids from the dairy barn, and it looked really good. We made these little triangle kind of structures with these grids and had 3 images per kind of grid panel, but it had a sculptural quality, and we spread them out throughout the gardens over at Zinner House. And I just felt like that approach had a lot of potential, and probably most like this one here, this example that Josh has up. I could see that being spread out along the bike path, where you do have one over by the library, and you have a few over in the healthcare corridor. Anyway, I think there's potential for that, and as was mentioned, if we just kept the investment in the materials, if we kept that and had it as a reoccurring event for the youth project, or for even if there's other organizations that wanted to kind of utilize that, it could be something where it's opened up and others use it as well. So.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this kind of exhibit is that the vinyl banners can be moved, so we could do it one place and then move it to another. If that other place it's free to hang, all you need to do is zip tie it to whatever you're hanging it from. If we were to do like a temporary thing and invest in some materials, like Nate's talking about, that could be otherwise utilized by us in the future. If we wanted to do something more like a semi-permanent exhibit space with nicer fencing, that's a bigger investment, of course. We'd have to really think that out.
And yeah, Bedrock Rentals may have something that, could be repurposed, to build a structure like this. We'll have to look into it. Or if you guys know of anywhere else similar to Bedrock that would deal with kind of construction materials, or I don't know, anything that could be repurposed.
I'm curious if they were out on the bike path, if it would be possible to tether them from the top and bottom, versus building a fence.
Mm-hmm.
But then you'd have to think about what they're tethered to, whether it's wrapped around some trees or light poles or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
what is the budget for this?
You'd have to put stakes in the ground or something like that, because these things will end up being like a umbrella. They'll just, if wind picks up, they're going flying. But maybe we could get, something like, talk to Lowe's and see if they might be willing to donate. This is all, pipe used for plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe you could find a corporate sponsor for their program, for the exhibit.
Yeah. So, Jeffrey, your question, I think, we could kind of easily fit within the $3,000 to $4,000 budget for the exhibition project. But if there needed to be more of an investment in terms of, materials, and it was going to be something we're going to use annually, then that could be considered as well. Mm-hmm. But Josh has got some quotes on vinyl printing. So yes, probably, let's say 3,000 to 5,000, if it's kind of full scale as we would think. But the nice thing with this is you could even start smaller this year and then kind of build it out, in subsequent years.
Yeah.
I will say that building material costs have skyrocketed lately. So I'm not sure if that includes PVC pipe, but just something to think about.
That's a great point. Yeah. And we'll have to ask, I know Mayor Patterson would be aware if there's any old city materials, old fencing or something like that we could utilize to put together structures. He might have some in the building over on the east side, one of the buildings on the east side that stores materials and maintenance stuff. We can ask him about that. Well, thank you for all that feedback. I'll do a little more investigating and Nate and I will talk and kind of figure out which direction we would like to go and start moving in that direction. I think the cost is about $75 for a 4x6 foot vinyl banner. So given that I've got about 24, 25 youth, I can come up with an approximate budget for printing and what we have for materials and labor otherwise, and then we can kind of figure out some other parameters.
Can I just throw out one more thing? I'm sorry.
Please. Yeah.
That fence along the river where all the families go to play soccer might be a viable fence. It's a big fence, and it goes all along, there next to Walmart and Kroger, but it's where the city soccer fields are. And a lot of families, a lot of people would see the exhibit.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Who owns that fence? I don't know either.
Yeah, I'd say either Walmart or the city, but I'm not sure.
No, I don't think the city owns it.
So then probably Walmart.
But it goes all along next to Kroger too. I mean, it goes the length of that bit of the river.
Maybe it belongs to the Adena Hawking Bicycle Path organization. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think that's a great point, is looking at, who our audience is, and, how are we going to reach them, and what's the best location for that. And then also kind of just looking at, how this does reflect itself as a, city, community, collaborative project. And yeah, just making sure it's accessible. Right. Yeah. But I think all the locations you guys mentioned are, potentially really strong. So we just look at feasibility within a short timeline. And if it is uptown, there's always the tie-in to our existing installation at the parking garage, which I've been kind of working with artists on that project, and we'll be changing our approach a little bit to how we rotate artwork there. I'm planning to have 5 artists featured at one time in that installation, starting in late September. So each artist would occupy a full bay of the parking garage. And we would rotate that about every 3.5 months and be printing on vinyl instead of the aluminum. I love the aluminum, but for cost effectiveness, we print on a mounted vinyl on a aluminum PVC composite and get those wrapped. But that'll allow, we've got about 45 artists that are in the pipeline that have work that's ready to be shown. So we would start in September having 5 artists at a time. Anyway, I can speak more to that at another meeting. But again, there'll be some movement there, I guess is why I bring it up in September. So there'll be new activity there. So whether we, in August kind of tied the youth project in uptown, it would definitely kind of feel like, part of that same initiative, or, kind of a wing of that same initiative. So that would be an easy thing, I think, to promote where there's already some identity with photography in that uptown space. But making it distinct enough to where folks really recognize, kind of the efforts of Josh and those 20 to 25 youth, as, a time-based project over the summer, and, kind of the impact that they want to have, that may be something different than kind of how the parking garage installation is functioned. So it's kind of, benefits of connecting them, but also making sure that they feel distinct enough.
Any last comments, thoughts?
Thank you all very much for the excellent feedback.
Thanks, guys.
Yes. Thank you, Nate, for joining us. And this is very exciting. It's going to be a great project.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Josh is really jumping in, and working with multiple agencies this summer is really exciting to see. And it's great to have Josh full-time this summer working on the project. So I think he's going to do great things.
Should be fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nate. You are welcome to stick around if you would like, but you definitely don't have to.
I'm going to go cook dinner.
Please do. Please do.
Appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
Okay. So if there's nothing else on that, we will move on to some ongoing commission business. The mural walk, the Map Athens project. That's another one of Josh's. So go for it, Josh.
Yeah, I chatted briefly with Nancy Stevens about possibilities within this mural walk. What can we do? What can we program into this? How can we customize it based on some of the ideas that we heard at the last meeting? And she says that there are some ways to customize it, and she wanted to point us to a couple of the tours. She said we can do this so that the murals can be grouped geographically, and they would kind of naturally group themselves out by neighborhood and can be explored however people want to. So that's basically like points on the map, and people can just look at all the points on the map and kind of figure out which ones they want to see. She said to see an example of that, the Parks and Green Spaces tour is a good one. And I can bring that up in just a sec, maybe, and show you guys. Actually, why don't I just share my screen now? Do you want me to? I'll just share. It'll be easier. Let's see here. Let me look at my screen all night.
I also just shared the link in the chat for those who are interested. Not that particular one, but
yeah. So it's on the left-hand side. You've got a little photographic icon, a thumbnail with the title of the location. On the right-hand side, you have a map you can zoom in on and see more in detail. If you click on one of the photographs, it gives you photographs a little larger. It zooms in on the map, and there's a little bit of information about each place. And you can even scroll up and down, and it'll take you by through the nearby sites. So that's probably on the more basic end of what we can do. And then she does say that we could do a tour more like this, where we have tabs. If we want to include the walking paths, we can include walking paths. This is the Athens Area Bird Walk. With this one, there are different bird walks you can do, and they have them numbered so that you can see the order in which you can visit them. I'm not sure if you can see the actual path, but that's something I think we could talk with her about. And you can see different paths, and again, click on the thumbnail and see expanded info. So those are two samples of what could be done. I do think they're using some kind of open platform GIS program. I don't know too much about it. So some of that, I'm not sure what of that can change and what can't. But Nancy can come to a later meeting this summer once we have a better idea of what exactly we want. And she did say that what she finds is that people use these in different types of walks in very similar ways. She doesn't notice too much of a difference in that. However, she does find that some groups want to kind of prescribe the paths. It will be more work on our end to kind of give her information about the paths and the order of we want them to take. But that's totally feasible if we want to go that route. So I'll stop sharing. Yeah, so she says, it all depends how much time your group wants to spend creating specific walking directions and calculating distances between the points. But she says that I've found that people seem to use both of these options in the same way. So it just depends. Yeah. And if we have another specific idea, we can propose that she do it. I remember there are a few others mentioned, but she wanted us to kind of get the big picture idea first before we get into specifics. And if we don't know now, that's fine. We can just talk about it more. Does anyone have any thoughts on that as you're navigating it maybe on your own?
It's really neat.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot.
I like the first option because we could do thumbnails of the murals and they would be eye-catching, and then people can click on that mural and go to it directly. It seems like it would be very user-friendly as far as finding your way around the different murals to look at.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of cool how you can pick one that you like and then navigate the others in that neighborhood and kind of create your own tour. So it's almost like every time you try it, you might do a different tour,
Josh, I'm not totally familiar with all of the Map Athens things. I know they've been doing them for a good, 3-4 years now? Mm-hmm. Doing these. Would this be the first one that's very arts centric, would you say?
There is one already called the Art Stroll. If you go back to the main page, I don't know if you have it up, the main Map Athens page, you can scroll down and there's an Art Stroll that has some of the big art installations in museums there. It doesn't have everything though. I mean, there are definitely some big things missing. Okay. And so we were thinking of starting off by doing one that's mural specific.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not familiar with all of them. Let's see. Does anyone know of others that are art focused?
Not on here. I know that Ohio Today did a whole thing on all the outdoor sculptures on campus. There was more than I knew. But it looks like this one has museums, galleries, collections, sculpture, architecture, and installations. Mm-hmm. One of the things I've always been wanting to do and working with the new person at the Athens County Convention Visitors Bureau, I can't remember who the new director is.
Boone,
yes.
Boone Sawyer.
Yeah. To do, I don't know, I really love the way that they've branded the triple nickel, where it's just you click on it and you can see exactly what the routes are, and it's just very user friendly, and it's very sort of exciting to see. I mean, I don't have a motorcycle, so I'll never do it, but I just like the way it looks. And I thought, I wonder if they did that for galleries in town. You could just walk to different galleries and have a day where, all the galleries would be open and welcoming the public, and have it be sort of a tourist thing. Mm-hmm. And so this, knowing that there's another way for people to do a self-guided thing with all of these art stuff and through the Map Athens function is really cool. And it's fun to imagine what a gallery hop, a Map Athens thing would be, or through the Athens County Convention Visitors Bureau too. So
Yeah, that's cool. We could talk with Boone more about that. He and I were working early on trying to create, kind of inventories of the big projects in Athens and create something tangible and useful for people that wasn't confusing, that was just fun and exciting and easy. So that's a great idea. I'll reach back out to him and ask him about that project and see if we can collaborate on this. Because maybe once we get the web component up, then we have like an event and we have little flyers with the Map Athens app on it or the website. And, we host drinks and we just choose a neighborhood to be in and we kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a fun idea. I was thinking of things that people could do once it was safe to do that. And being in galleries, I think, is something that people will want to, maybe they didn't really go before, but now that they couldn't go for a year, maybe now they want to more just because it's, you don't miss something as much until you can't do it anymore, it feels like. And then you're like, oh, I want to go. So yeah, I'd be happy to collaborate on that one with you too.
Right.
So I'm looking at, I've really enjoyed the Map Athens, but I'm thinking that would it make sense to just tag on to that Art Stroll instead of creating a whole separate new art component? Just a thought.
Yeah, we could work on expanding it with the list we have. We came up with a pretty large list of murals. I guess I would ask the commission if we intend to make other tours in the future that are focused on different types of art or art installations. So I did see there's a poetry tour as well. But, maybe we work on just making one big, great, very cool art stroll that has different tabs. Or do we want separate ones? I'm not sure the answer from like a user experience perspective.
I wonder what the resources are to build a whole new one of these as opposed to adding on. If it was an add-on tab with just the murals, would there be like, we could do that in 2 days? And if you want a big square all to yourself, that takes a lot more time. And maybe we don't care what the answer is to that. Whatever it is, what it'll be. But I see the value of that, Chelsea, just because it helps people organize. If they see Art Stroll, they're like, oh, look at all the different kind of art engagement you can have. But if I'm into parks and playgrounds, then I'm going to go to that one. I kind of like that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of keeps it simple. It keeps people in the same place rather than going back and forth and having to navigate.
Agreed.
And, I guess my only worry would be that it becomes at some point too much content to navigate, almost too much there. But, that's when we can curate and we can start to select the best that we want to include for each tab, each selection of art installations that we choose. And I don't know about the time difference or the resource investment. It's probably easier for them to just add on. What we would need is I would still need information for each mural and photograph. But once we have that, I think they can input the data pretty easily.
Okay. So maybe 6 of one, half dozen the other. They're like, either one is fine. And it's not a big deal. Yeah. Cool. Neat. That'd be cool.
Any other thoughts, preferences? Well, I'll talk with her about, whether we tag on to the Art Stroll or whether we do a separate one, and maybe talk with Boone about what he's done and start moving forward with that. And I'll start to build that list so that we can gather that information too. Yeah.
You might want to also ask Boone if he has any archives, like photo archives of the images. They might already have something. So that way we're not, rewriting the wheel on that.
Definitely.
And Josh, you have a pretty big collection right now of all the photos of the murals as it is, right?
I've got some of them. Joel Prince did some of it when we were first starting to
Right.
the big artworks. Joel Prince of the Visitors Bureau did start to take photos for us. And he's probably got more by now. I haven't checked it recently. Mm-hmm. And Nancy knows some students. I can probably take some photographs. I can get some students on it as well. We can scrap it together when we know exactly what we want. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's exciting coming together. We've been talking, around this kind of thing for a while. This is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. We had a couple things going and the pandemic changed a few of them, but I think this will definitely happen. And then we can go from there if we want to keep expanding to we were talking about like an Athens art and artist database. That's a much bigger project. And that's kind of why it got stalled during the pandemic. But this is a first step for it if we want to go that route. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. So if nobody has anything to add, we're going to go ahead and move on to the Ohio Arts Council Governor's Arts Awards. This is also Josh. Did you have any update for us?
Y'all are probably sick of my voice by now. I am. I have to hear myself all damn day. So we haven't made any progress on this. I haven't. Kelly has, though. She looked through our application and had some great feedback that maybe she can share with us now, and then she and I are going to meet and try to move it forward. But Kelly, do you want to tell us about some of your
Sure. I'm off of mute. I just looked at the notes that you had taken when you watched the basically tips to make it better video. And I watched it too. And so, I think these are solid, suggestions. I mean, it's really about persuasive writing, at least from what I can tell. Let's see. My notes, here they are. Okay, I have to bring them up here. Oh, here we go. One thing that I thought of earlier, if we have a YouTube video, or if we can we include links to multimedia in our application, or does it all have to be narrative on paper?
My understanding is that it's all narrative on paper and the letters of recommendation.
Okay.
We could ask, from what I recall, they keep it pretty strict, but
okay.
Did you get the sense from the video that they were open to that kind of thing, or?
No, I was thinking more like if WEB is going to capture the project at the rec center, the mural project at the rec center, and then we have it on YouTube. Mm-hmm. That's essentially earned media from WEB telling it, informing the persuasive part of this application. Look, we even get coverage from our local TV station, and it could be just a visual that we could include. But if they don't allow it, then it's kind of moot, which is totally fine. I get it. They probably want to not have everybody include every link under the sun to it. So I just wrote some notes, just a couple questions, but really this is really getting into the weeds for when Josh and I meet. But I just looked at how Josh, you had written about needs to be more diversity focused. I think that definitely rings true. And maybe we can talk about sort of what DE&I work the AMAC commissioners have done, or as a project. I just don't know. I don't know if there's anything that has been done that we can say, we've been doing work towards making sure that we have more of a global inclusivity, as Chelsea was talking about earlier. So that would be a strong thing too. But I'll just have to get information from people to see what we've done. And I would, again, probably just reach out to everybody on this thing that's involved in these things. So I don't know whether the Athens Community Arts and Music Festival took place in 2018 and in 2019, right?
Yes.
Yes.
and not in 2020. And do we know if it's going to happen in 2021? I know that this is
No, it's not happening this year.
It's not. Okay. Got it.
But it's a pretty diverse festival. I mean, as far as
Very much so.
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of different bands and a lot of different artists and
Right.
all
Okay.
the local arts organizations are involved in it.
So we would say that 2020 was, no go because of the COVID, and this is the year where you guys are sort of like, looking at it and rethinking about what it could be in the future, or do you think it'll just maybe go back to maybe just being the community arts and music festival, or just the music festival? We don't know. We don't know yet anything, right? I mean,
in the future, it'll definitely involve both the arts and music.
Okay. Cool. Well, we can talk about that if we know that it's going to continue in the future. It seems like we wouldn't want to not talk about it, I guess is what I'm saying. And tout the fact that it happened in 2018, 2019, and now, we're getting ready to ramp up again in probably 2022, maybe.
Yes. Hopefully.
Go ahead.
I mean, that's what we hope for.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my only other thing is it would be really cool to get quotes from the students who were involved in the mural project at the rec center. I feel like quotes from people who are feeling the impact of being engaged with this kind of civic art installation and civic art project would be really great. So would we be allowed to reach out to them, or what would be the protocol for that? If anybody knows. And that's really my last thing I have to say.
I would say that we could reach out to Beth, who is commissioner on that project.
Okay.
So that way, since she's been the main contact for the teachers, and then the teachers can reach out to the students. I mean, I know that they're all on summer project or summer break right now. But if this isn't due until September, is my memory serving me? Then perhaps, sometime in the fall, we can get some of those quotes to be able to include. I also wanted to say regarding links. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while since I've been on any of the OAC website or grant applications. But you can traditionally embed links. And I don't know if you want to say here is the link to this. It could just be embedded in, we were featured on WOUB for this particular project, and then embed the link into that. I don't know how, if that works with Artie, the OAC's system. But that's a thought for, for the future, that possibility. So. Okay.
That's good to know. I'll just pick over every word of the guidelines to make sure we're in compliance with all of it, obviously. And then if they say, yeah, go for it, then we'll definitely, if we have great video that touts it, why not? It's persuasive, unless anybody has objections to it. And I actually do have one more question. I know that we have to submit 5 letters, and we want to update the ones that are currently used because they're a little bit old. Do we want to try to ask the same folks, or do we consult with one another to see who we would like to ask to write letters? Or is it the same people from before, or should it be different? I don't know about that part.
Well, I think we had talked about asking a few different people so that we're kind of getting a more recent, relevant application. I think a few might be the same. If I'm remembering correctly, we were thinking about, let's see, it was Emily Prince, Emily Beveridge, Nate at the Athens Photo Project. And then I think we were going to have one of the teachers from the Mural, East 8th Street Mural, and maybe Keith Wild. I'd have to consult my list. I don't have it up right now. But I think the idea was that we were going to shake it up a little bit, update some of them, and then ask for some new ones. And I think we had a list of about 6. Okay. And that way we can narrow it down to 5 when we get the letters.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, I think that sounds really good because the Ohio Poet Laureate had submitted one when she was the Athens Poet Laureate. Carrie Gunther Seymour, would we want to ask her to write it from a lens of where she is now as Ohio Poet Laureate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good point. So we can ask her to update that and talk about AMAC's role and her trajectory and in her community. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do remember this now, Josh, so I apologize for not remembering like these people. And I really like the fact that the folks that we're asking to write letters are people that work not only with the community, but also for the community. So that we have both artists who can speak to the robustness of the arts here, and then people who actually work to create impact for students, for K through 12, et cetera. So I think it's a nice narrative mix there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And I'll look at that list and maybe I'll send it to you just so you can review it.
Okay.
And also, I'll ask Katie Monahan, I think it's her name, about embedding a link. If there's the news article, we can embed it. What I remember is that they asked us to copy and paste our 500-word narrative into a little box on Arty, and they told us that we lose all formatting. And so I'll have to ask them. I'm just skeptical that they would accept it, but we might, if they do, we'll try it. And one thing I wanted to add about the diversity, equity, and inclusion, it would be helpful, I think, for all of us to kind of review in our minds and what we've done the past 5-6 years that fits into that. I mean, I think the Athens Photo Project parking garage wall does. All those artists live with severe and persistent mental illness and have traditionally been marginalized. So those are voices that are being brought to the forefront of our community, through that installation. Does anyone else have others that you can think of off the top of your head?
I was just going to give a little bit of background about the Athens Community Music and Arts Festival, just in case anybody doesn't know. So Scott actually started, it was originally just the Community Music Festival. And he started, 20 years ago, 18 years ago, Scott?
Yeah, it was 1999. And we had the first one on top of the parking garage. And the second one, because Athens is so traditionally slow, especially in the venues, the music venues, in the summertime, decided to try to do like a mini South by Southwest approach and give some of those venues business while, because they support all these independent artists all year round, and now they're all hurting. And so we moved it to that, and we kind of did it that way for a little while. And always wanted to bring it to the street and to, close down Union Street, just as being sort of like I guess we called it the arts corridor for a little while or whatever. And so, yeah, it's always meant a lot to me, for sure. And I love how it's evolved, that the AMAC has kind of given me the opportunity to work with Kelly and include the Arts Guild and have all of that, for sure.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that Lee knew that background, as well as Holly, since Holly is relatively new.
And also, I'd just like to add that the Athens Art Guild that's involved and the artists that are on the street, part of our mission as an organization is to promote the arts in this area. And it's in artists from Athens and all the counties that touch Athens. And so it's very important to us to promote the arts in this part of Appalachia, because that is one way that people can make money. We're trying to help them to find a way to sell their work and improve their lives. So I guess if we could include some, because that's another marginal, southeastern Ohio in general is kind of a lost area of Ohio. We're just, we're here, but we're really trying hard to promote the Appalachian artists of this area.
And I would also say that I can't speak to the original community music festival because I was never involved in the planning process of that. I attended several times, and Arts West was always a recipient of some of those funds for Arts for Education for the youth, which was a great aspect of that festival. But the add-on to the arts and being able to go outside to the Union, or on Union Street and have an outdoor festival really opened it up to so many different arts organizations, so many people attending because it's outside during the day. It was family friendly, but the variety of the performers, including like the Factory Street Dance Studio and OVST, and bringing in outside acts, that was amazing. On top of that entire stage area had local people working those shows. And so it really did touch a lot of people. And so I would say if we can think about people who may have a good experience or a good memory from any of those events, we might want to include quotes from those events as well. That is just a thought, but I see Carol has her hand up.
Well, I didn't know how to do any of that, but anyway, my hand was up to say that Armory Park is a good example of the diversity too, because of nationalities involved in the university and all the different aspects of that project. That's it.
Thank you, Carol. And back to Josh's point before I started going on a tangent, anybody else have any other projects that we've done recently or, a long time ago that, fit in with the D&I?
I would imagine that the RAP project or the Art Outside the Box has a pretty diverse group of artists involved. Because how many we've done, I can't remember, 30 boxes so far?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, we can maybe talk to some of those artists, have some of them give us quotes.
Any other last topic discussions on the Arts Awards? Do we have next steps, Josh?
Kelly and I are going to meet next week and talk about the direction we want the narrative to take. And I will start soliciting the letters and we'll get it ready this summer. Now, Kelly, you had suggested, I believe, getting the narrative down first and then soliciting letters so that people who were writing letters for us kind of had a foundation and understanding what we were applying for?
Yeah, I think it's only fair to say, can you speak to this from your own lens, why all of this is true? Because then maybe it'll just, probably their words would be more authentic if they knew exactly what we were going to be submitting. And we could give them just maybe an executive summary or just a bullet points. We don't have to share the whole document with them if we don't want to do that, but just like the bullet points so that they know the direction the narrative is taking. Is it helpful once you and I think it's done, does it get reviewed by everybody in AMAC and then somebody uploads it to Artie? Is that how that works?
Yeah, what I would suggest, and I'm open to other processes, is that we work on it together and then bring it to AMAC and see what AMAC thinks and revise from there. And then, one of us can do the final upload when we're done with everything.
Okay. So I'm going to be out for the first part of August. So I just want to make sure, maybe a good expectation would be to have something solid that we present at the July meeting, just so everybody knows what the expectation could be. And that gives us a full month here. So Cool.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think
I have to work on deadlines. You just have to.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And that's a great idea. I think that'll give our letter writers a little more understanding and direction when they're writing about us. Mm-hmm.
And also plenty of time to work on said letters, because I know a lot of people would prefer to have as much time as possible, as long as we give them a reminder, like a week out or whatever it happens to be. So, yep, ask early. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the guidance.
Thank you, Lee and Josh. So we are running out of time, which is a good thing because we're doing so many wonderful projects. So we will, again, skip the review the ordinance. But again, I just want to make sure that everybody has looked at it. One of these days, we will carve out 10, 15 minutes just to talk about it as a group. I will make a note to send that out, that information. I can't remember if I sent it out to Lee. I know I haven't sent it out to Holly. So I'll make note to send that information out to you all by the end of this week. So then the next is AMAC member to attend APRD advisory board meetings. So I've talked with Terry and Alan, and we have agreed to have an AMAC member attend their advisory board 3 times a year. So it would be March, July, and November. They do meet on the 3rd Thursday of every month from 5:30 to 7. Right now it is via Zoom. So I wanted to see if anybody was interested in being that liaison, at least for this year. So just those 2 times. No takers. Okay. So think about it. Reach out to me if you do want to be that liaison. It's very quick and easy. You're not there for very long. It's basically just a broad update of what AMAC has been working on project-wise. And the arts is the first thing that actually gets discussed in their meeting, besides like approving the minutes and legislative updates and things like that. So you would not be required to be there for the full 90 minutes. I would say 15, 30 minutes max, depending upon what AMAC has been working on. So reach out to me if this is something that you could help me out with, so I'm not having to do it. But I can do it if I must. Okay. Moving on to the next one. So the commission action items, the new member handbook items. If anybody's been into the Google Drive today, I did move around a couple of things, created folders, because that's the way that my brain works, because I hate looking at giant like swaths of things. And so there is a new member handbook item folder in there. I did just move the document that Beth started back in 2016 into that. I have not started a list or anything like that, but if the 2 new members want to start a document that says, these are the questions that I have, and then that way we as a commission can go in there and start answering some of those questions to hopefully flush out exactly what new members, would like to know, besides sharing of the information and the ordinances and the policies and the past RFPs and things like that. Does that all sound good?
Yep.
I just looked it up, and do you want me to just put the link to that page where you can put in what you think it should include to the chat? Chelsea, would that be helpful?
I mean, I can add that later.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I have that list from some other place.
Okay.
But yeah, I can like put that in there. But I'm just talking, again, we're
broad
still,
strokes.
Yeah, we're starting this conversation, and
okay.
Wanting to make sure that both you and Holly get I'm mainly interested in making sure that you get your questions answered, since we don't have a full handbook yet.
Okay.
So.
That sounds good.
Okay, great. Any thoughts on that from anybody else before we move on? Nope. Great. Okay, so I do have a quick announcement. So if you all remember, this past April, Stewart's Opera House had a committee get together to plan and present a anti-racism in the arts webinar. And that went really well. I will make sure and put the link to the YouTube video for the keynote speakers into the chat, as well as email it out to everybody. But this group was actually asked by Arts Midwest to do a webinar called the Gather Round series. That is tomorrow, Thursday, June 10th. It's 2 to 3:30 Eastern time. I will be on it, as well as folks from Stewart's Opera House, and then a couple of other community members who helped plan that particular event. I will send the link to register if anybody is interested in tuning in. They will record it, obviously, and then it will be sent out to myself, of which I will be happy to forward if anybody wants to watch it on their own time. So that's the only major announcement I have. Does anybody else have any announcements? No. Let me put these in the chat real quick, because if I don't, I will forget. There we go. Lovely. Okay, any last thoughts? Any last comments before we adjourn? Not hearing any, we will go ahead. Leave 1 more minute left. So the next meeting is going to be Wednesday, July 14th, 2021 from 5:30 to 7 p.m. via Zoom. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, me.
Kelly Lawrence, thank you. Second. Looks like Lee is raising her hand. Lee Reesbeck, thank you.
Yeah. And did you know that the 14th of July is Bastille Day? It's French Independence Day. So everybody should bring champagne. No.
Ah.
Just kidding.
Just drink it afterwards.
Okay.
Or a beret, me too. No. Great. Well, meeting is adjourned. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.